Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to your next tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to use emulators. Now, in order to test our app, how it's going to look on a particular phone, we will need to use an emulator because we do not want to put our app in every single phone and see how it looks like on it. So Ionic has provided a few great methods for us to do this really easily. The first command that you're going to type to add an emulator is to add a platform to your Ionic app first. So let's do that. To do so, we're going to type Ionic platform add Android or iOS. Now I have already added a platform, so I think it's going to throw an error that I've already done so. But let's see. Yeah, that's what it says. But in your case, it's not going to do that. Now do the same thing for iOS. Platform add iOS. Okay. The next step that we're going to do is to build our app for that particular operating system. So let's do it for Android first. Ionic build Android. Okay, now the next step we're going to build for iOS. So let's do Ionic build iOS. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to do is to actually launch the emulator and see how our app looks on that phone. So we're going to launch the emulator for Android first. Ionic emulate Android. Now before we proceed to this step, we would want to make sure that we have Android Studio installed on our computers. If you do not have that, please check my resource in which I have added a link on how to install Android Studio on your machine. Okay, so let's try to emulate our app on an Android phone. Alright, so as we can see that our app is now started and running perfectly fine. Now let's try to add an item just to make sure that our app actually runs. So task 1, let's save it. Let's add another one. Task 2, let's save it. And now if you see that if we close this application and start back up, the tasks are still there. So that means we're using our database properly, our app is functioning properly, and everything is working as we expect it to do so. Now let's try this on iOS. So we're going to do Ionic emulate iOS. Now before you do that, you want to make sure that you're on a MacBook because Apple does not support the Windows operating systems. Now let's try to add a task. Task 1. Okay, working perfectly fine. That will be all for the emulator tutorial. Now there is something that was working in Ionic 1 and is not working with the latest versions of the emulators, which is the live reload function. So once that comes into place, I will update my tutorial and teach you guys how to use the live reload.